Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Whether we are out riding with our friends and family or racing in extreme environments, we all need good tires. That's why I recommend GBC Power Sports Tires, a division of Greenball Corp. Their products, which include XC Master, Mini Master, and Groundbuster 3, are what leading professionals in the ATV-UTV industry are using. You can get your tires at greenballtires.com or find them on Instagram as GBC Tires for further inquiries. Doug Gust, welcome back to ATV Talk. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Hey, thank you for giving us some time. You're still dealing with a little bit of winter up there, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, it's raining, though, today. We're getting thunderstorms and chance of hail, which is unusual for January. We got some snow on the ground, but this rain is taking care of it. But a couple of days, they're forecasting a winter storm and supposed to get 8 more inches of snow. So,
did that real cold front that came through affect you guys?
yeah, we had a cold front here where we were 13 below and the wind chill was 38 below. That was pretty brutal for a couple of days. Stuff freezes up fast.
Not to get off topic, how do you keep the house warm?
Well, we're in an old farmhouse. We moved here out in Hollandale, Wisconsin, which is way out in the middle of nowhere, closer to Iowa actually now. And I don't know, they got an old it's a fuel burner, or what they call it, fuel oil or home oil. It burns and it just it runs constantly when it's that cold. And you can feel the cold coming through the windows and everything. They frost up. And matter of fact, my wife had her pillow against the window up in the bedroom. And when I came up there that night, I tried to pull it off. It was stuck. The window froze to it. Yeah, that's cold. Wow. I don't like it when it gets that cold. Nobody does. You know, I don't mind 20s and 30s, but when it gets that cold, it's horrible.
So you can't do anything?
No, I mean, people still do. I actually was getting I built a new hangar in this new property, and they were running the electric service and the gas, and they were struggling trying to get through the frost. The ground freezes up hard, and I was surprised them guys were still working in them conditions, and the tractor started up and everything, you know. Wow. They took that day they took off when it got 13 below, but they worked the next day when it was, I mean, I don't think it was zero, you know, it maybe got to zero out and they were working. That's cold.
Yeah, that, you know what? I'm sorry, dude. I'm not coming out of the house. Ain't happening.
No, I didn't stay out very long myself either.
Yeah, and you grew up in it, right?
Yep. But like I said, I mean, 20 degrees, 25, sun out, I can handle, no wind. But it starts getting windy and colder than that. Nope, I'm staying in. I like snowmobiling, but not that much. The older I get, the colder it gets. So I stay in the house.
Wow, yeah. You keep that. I'm gonna complain about my 38 degrees here and occasionally, you know, maybe in the 40s. I'm gonna whine a little and stay in or not go work in the shop because it's too cold.
Yeah, well, that's why I put floor heat in the shop and everything, so hopefully it pays off. But we're 42 degrees here today, so we're a heat wave.
Yeah, dude, you're in shorts and a t-shirt out there sweating.
Yep,
right?
It's a sweatshirt weather for us today. So, you know, when it gets that cold, when we were below zero like that, and then it warms up to 30, it is sweatshirt weather because you get kind of acclimated to that cold, and then it warms up, and you're like, wow. But then in the fall time, you know, when you're used to 70 or 80 and it gets down to 30, you got a winter jacket on because you're not used to it.
You guys get all 4 seasons, right?
Yep. Yeah. And we don't have to deal with the earthquakes like you guys out there.
It's not a big deal, dude. I don't think we've had a serious one since 99.
Yeah. And now you're getting the flood and rains, though. It's on our news out here is about you guys out there.
Well, it's upper north from us. I mean, we get it a little bad, or we're getting it not too. I mean, it's not great, but we're not flooding down here like they are up in the northern portion of California. So
Yeah.
they're mostly liberals anyway, so they can deal with it.
Yeah. Well, the mountains are getting good snow, which is good for you guys for water supply, I guess.
Yeah, we need it. We need to fill the reserves back up. But the policy most likely is that they'll dump 25% of what they catch.
Yeah, wow.
Which doesn't make any sense, but
yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, we don't have to worry about water out here.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So let's get back on topic, brother. In '99, you were riding a 250R, a Lager 250R, correct?
Yes. Yep. Wayne Henson was helping me out a lot then too, and I believe that was the Nacarado days too.
Yep.
Darren Nacarado, before he passed. Yeah, it was good times. Good times.
How did you and Darren get connected?
He contacted me. Trying to think of what year it was. I can't remember the year because I got hurt bad in '96, I believe it was, or '97. I got hurt bad, and then I was going to retire. Matter of fact, I left a note when I was in the hospital to my mom. I promise I'm done racing, but I said that won't hold up in the court of law because I was under too many drugs in the hospital. But I had broken my back and my leg and some ribs. I was at Muddy Creek. I remember that. It was Mother's Day. But anyways, yeah, he contacted me after that and asked if I wanted to keep riding. And I told him, no, I'm done. Well, then the summer went by, and that happened in May when I got hurt. The summer went by. In October, I decided to jump on the quad again because I missed it already. And it was kind of like I never got off it. I felt like I was right there again. And so when Darren called me back again, asked me if I changed my mind, I said, yes, I think I'm going to do it again. And then he helped me out, and we got back going, and I won a championship then.
So coming back from the injury, the next year, so if you got hurt in '97, you rode with him in '98, and then '99 you won the title.
Yes, and yeah, we Tom Carlson was in the picture, building the motors, and yeah, we won the championship. I finally learned how to flat track because that's what was killing me all the years before. I was winning the motocross division of it because they had it separated back then, TT, and I think it was 5 TTs, 5 motocrosses, and I could win the motocross series, but I was not doing very well in the TT, and I finally figured out how to TT a little bit and gave Shane Hitt a run for his money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
because Shane won it in '97, didn't he?
I believe so. Yeah. But he was, one of the best TTers along with Tim Farr. And, I was having a hard time with them guys. I could beat them in the motocross usually, but the flat track was tough for me.
You also mentioned in our last conversation, you raced against John Hemme and Marty Hart, and that takes you back some years.
Yes, I did.
Marty stopped racing the Nationals in '96.
Yeah, I raced. I even raced. It had to be. It was out. I raced the Golden State Nationals out in California.
No,
and that
Marty stopped racing the Nationals in '88, I believe.
Yeah, I raced 3-wheelers. So I remember Jimmy White, Marty Hart, Mike Cole, because I went to some nationals on a 3-wheeler, but I wasn't running pro. But yeah, and then I raced. I went to 4-wheelers and raced some Mickey Thompsons and some Golden State Nationals, and I raced some guys there that were competing then. All right, that was way back when.
Yeah, that's back into the '80s.
Yeah.
So you're aging yourself by racing all the way to 2009. That's a long career.
Yeah, it was. I was in my 40s and I was racing some nationals still in 2009. So Yeah, a lot of years, over 20 years. I started racing Texas arena crosses too back in 80. That's where I started running professional. I ran Mike Kidd used to hold the Texas Arena Cross series and Dale on the bike and the quad, and I qualified for a few of them on the bike. So I was doing both.
When you raced the arena cross, did you have a setup, like a motocross setup for that?
Yes, yep. And there was a big jump they always had, and nobody was doing it. And I started jumping it on the quad. I mean, on the bike, everybody was doing, but nobody was jumping it on the quad. And then when I came, I was still running stock rear tires. I had a 250R, and I was jumping the big double they had there.
At what transition point did you go from running the stock style machine with the stock tires and transition into a more motocross setup?
Well, I believe Bill's Pipe picked me up. And I don't know if you remember Bill's Pipe.
Yep.
Yes, he picked me up after I was winning some of the arena cross there. And I actually won the championship. And I believe that was 89. I won the championship there. But backtrack, and I was in California running the Golden State Nationals in 87 on a Suzuki. I had a Suzuki 250, LT 250. And I got it stolen. I don't know if we talked about this the last time. Yeah. And I got it stolen, and it went across the border to Mexico, I'm sure. I had the whole truck, the whole works, everything was stolen and gone. So I went back home and worked for the summer, and then I got a 250R, and that's how I got on the Honda and started racing Honda.
And then you went back. Did you come back to California or come west again after that?
Nope, never came back again. I had never flown before, so I had to get a commercial flight back home. And nope, never went back until boy, I didn't go back until there was the national there. There was a national, and I'm trying to think of where it was. It was more in, I think, Northern California. They had a national. I raced Gary Denton there. I'm trying to think of what year that was. It had to be 88 or 89. And they had a national out there and then that was the next time I went. And I remember that national because I pulled the whole shot, and they didn't even have a starting gate. They had a bungee cord there. And I pulled the whole shot, and I still had stock tires on. And Alan Knowles told me they red flagged a race and made a start again because they said I jumped the start. And Alan Knowles from CT Races said, yeah, you had to jump the start because Gary Denton didn't get it. And boy, did that make me mad. But I didn't jump the start, but I got accused of it just because I beat Gary in the start.
Did you get the second start?
Nope, I didn't. I think if I remember, I got third or fourth at that national running stock tires. I believe I had stock tires, but it was after that that I think it was all the way until no, I was running stock tires for a long time. Even I think I can remember in 94, 95 still having stock tires, and then I started getting some bigger sponsors and tire sponsors, and maybe I went over to ITP then after that.
And
that's a lot of years. That's a lot of years ago. It's hard to remember, and a lot of concussions.
We're not supposed to talk about those.
Right.
So when did Wayne Hinson come into the picture?
He came in, I believe, right around the Darren Nacarado time, when Max Racing started helping me out. Hinson did. And then Hinson, me and Wayne became good friends, and he really started helping me out. I think when Gary Denton retired, because he was helping Gary a lot, but when Gary retired, he kind of looked after me and really helped me out and pointed me in the right directions.
Did he help you with the TT setups?
Yes, that's what helped me start winning TTs was Wayne Hinson. He was a smart fella, and he really helped me out and was a good mentor. I mean, he gave me a lot of confidence, which I needed for the TTs.
Yeah, some of his chassis setups were pretty good. I mean, when you talk to Shane about TT, it's, 7 pair of front shocks and different link swing arms and
Yeah.
different tires, and you're just like kind of blown away by.
Right. Shorter swing arms, this, that, right ride height. And oh yeah, there was so much involved in that.
Yeah, some of the things that they did to get traction. He was telling me about one of the races in Indiana, Pennsylvania, where they jacked the front of the machine way up in the air so that it would force the rear tires to grab traction because nobody could get traction.
Yep, yep. There was so many tricks, and obviously we learned to ride the brakes too to try to get traction, but you had that fine line. And when you get into the big sweeper, if your foot's on the brake a little bit, if you ride it too long, you're going to boil your brake and lose your brake. But by riding it would plant the machine down, into that corner and help you from sliding and
Right, get
gaining
you to
traction.
drive around the turn better.
Yep, yep, yep.
That's,
Yeah, TT was an art.
do you ever miss going to the TT races?
Yeah, after I started doing good, I did. At first I never missed it, but yeah, after I started doing good, I'm like, that wasn't too bad. It was kind of fun. So
And then it went to straight motocross in was it 2003 or 4?
boy, I don't remember for sure, but it was one of them 2 years. It might have been four when it was, because that's when I got sponsored by Suzuki. The factory ride came in, so it might have been four, but I'm not for sure.
Yeah, because the Yamaha hit in 03, and
Yep.
you were riding the Z400 in 03 as well.
Yes. Yep.
Did your Z400 compete against that YZ450 very well?
Yeah, we won the championship in '04 with the Z400, so it did. I mean, obviously it was board and stroke, so it was close to a 450, but the Z400 was a little taller chassis, so it didn't corner as good, but it had its advantages. So and it we made it. I mean, we did a lot of testing on that, and Wayne Henson was involved, and I spent a lot of time in California testing and getting that thing to work really good.
And Tom, you said Tom did the motors for that one?
Yes, yep. And then we changed over to Yoshimir, I believe, in '04. Yoshimir started doing the motors in '04, I believe.
Yeah, that was probably a bummer for you because Tom helped you for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, and Tom, Tom's just a one-man guy in the shop where Yoshimir had a lot more uh what's the word I'm looking for? They got a lot more engineers in there, and they're just a bigger company. And when Suzuki came aboard, they just decided that it would be a better fit with Yoshimir, and of course that hurt Tom's feelings, which I don't blame him. But Tom was just a one-man guy in the shop, and his idea of testing was ride it down the road after he builds the motor, and yep, she runs good. And Tom's biggest thing to me, and I'll never forget this. I'd be racing one of his motors, and something wouldn't be right, and I'd come in, and he'd be like, "Just run it, boy, just run it." And I'm like, "Tom, why don't you just run it when you're going for a 50-foot double?" So, but no, good old boy Tom is, and he's still building motors, I guess. So doing good.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him in quite a while. I've been wanting to reach out. It's just we all get so busy in our own lives and our own things that you don't lose track. Well, you lose track, and you want to reach out to your race friends, but it doesn't always happen because life gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah, it's just amazing how fast time flies. You think about how long it's been since I've raced. I just can't believe it. And speaking of Tom, he actually just called me the other day. I missed his call. I haven't returned it yet, but he reaches out to me a couple times a year and we talk for a bit. So
Well, that's good that you keep talking and you still remain friends. Do you
yeah.
get to talk to Wayne Hinson very often?
I don't talk to him that much. I seen him at uh when they inducted Gary Denton into the Hall of Fame, Motorcycle Hall of Fame. I seen him then and talked to him for a bit, but really haven't talked to him since. I know he's busy, I'm busy, and I mean, we'll text once in a while, Happy New Year or something, but that's about it.
Wow. Life changes. You go on. He's semi-retired, I believe.
Yeah, yeah,
Getting up there in age.
yeah. It was good to see him at the induction with Gary Denton. That was nice to see him. And I seen a couple guys there that I hadn't seen in a long time. Just like this fall when I seen you, and that was good going to that
Huevos
uh,
reunion.
waivers reunion. Yeah, that was nice. I was debating on whether to go. I'm so busy, and I told my wife Tina that you know what, this is never going to happen again. I need to go. Let's just go. So we dropped everything we were doing here and left. So
Yeah, I get it. Supposedly, Corey Witherall, I don't know if you remember him. He raced Mickey's in the like 86 to 89.
Okay.
He's going to put on an 80s reunion. So they're reaching out to different people for that. Just the 80s riders, not any the guys that went past, that's fine. But if they rode in that 80s era, so you might get a contact for that.
Oh wow.
To come out to California for something like that.
Wow.
They're gonna do that. But Corey raced Indy cars.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he went from ATVs to single seater stadium cars, to asphalt cars to IndyCar.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, an ATV guy, and he loves the quads. He loves talking about the quads and remembers his days. So it's
yeah.
You scratch your head. You raced Indy cars, and you're excited about quads.
Yeah, no kidding.
But when you were riding that Z400, were you skeptical at all about how the machine worked, the suspension, and the way they dialed it in?
Well, at first I think we were running Elka shocks at first, and yeah, we had to do a lot of testing, and we got that thing dialed really good. And then I felt comfortable, in the spring because we did a lot of testing with it and got pretty comfortable with it. So, but yeah, at first it was, there was things, but it's always in the back of your mind that, hey, I'm going to be racing against guys with 450s that are factory 450s. So, but we definitely in '04, all the team, really worked hard, and we won a lot of races that year. I remember.
Did Suzuki want to change? I know they changed the engine package, but how much did they change everything? I mean, did they come in and want everything to change, or was it just certain specific things?
Just certain things. I mean, we changed. I believe we put a Kickstarter on some, and we got rid of the I guess you call it wet sump to dry sump or vice versa. We got rid of the oil tank in front and tried to make it a wet sump. Then we realized it was robbing horsepower with the oil in there, so we went back to the dry sump, put the oil tank back out. I mean, there was a lot of things we did, and Wayne Hinson was big into that. But Yoshimir, having a dyno and be able to test things, they knew what gave us that extra half horsepower or horsepower. So, and then chassis wise, obviously different arms, different swing arm. We had to do for a Z400 because it wasn't race ready out of the box. So, yeah, there was a lot of work to do with them four wheelers.
when you rode for Suzuki on that thing, did you change the stock frame or did you run the stock frame?
We ran the stock frame. We gusseted it up, but we ran the stock frame.
Yeah, Jeremy Show could break one of those in an afternoon.
Yep, yep. We put a lot of gussets on the ones I did race. Yeah,
Was
I tried to be more a smooth rider or fluid where I wasn't hard on things and but it is what it is. I mean, you can only be you got to be fast, but you got to be smooth. Smooth and fast go together.
your practice machines, how fast did you go through them? Because I know the frames were kind of brittle.
Pretty quick. I think I would go in the summertime, 3 or 4 of them practicing on them. And of course, we had a discrepancy about that because I wanted one like my race quad, but they didn't want to give me one like that because I'd break it more. So I had more of a stock machine, which didn't have the power. So I couldn't ride it as hard and break it as fast. So,
I can understand that. I,
yeah.
I was told that they had a special transmission in those things that were like 3-speed trannies.
No, not 3 speed, but we did change the gears and make them tougher. I know Wayne Henson had a lot to do with that too. Some kind of billet teeth or gears in there, to make the transmissions tougher.
Because they would break if you didn't.
Yeah, yeah, third gear, especially because you're in third gear a lot.
So the 400 had the same problem as the 450.
Yep, I believe so. Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy that the same gear is soft in both machines.
Well, I think it's because you're that gear you're in a lot. Third gear, you're using that gear a lot in whoops and jumps, and you're landing with the throttle on in third gear. So I think that gear's taken the most abuse. I don't think that it was softer. It's just that's the gear that takes all the abuse.
Yeah, I mean, you got a point there.
Yeah.
I know we're bouncing around a lot. In 06, which was your last year, wasn't it?
No, 09.
Okay. The testing, you got to set me straight here. I read a little bit of an article and it said something about the testing that you did for Suzuki on that LTR set it up so that the guys that you raced with could perform well. Like they talked about, the work that you did made the machine good enough for Josh to jump on it and win a championship.
Yeah, we did. Well, I think we might have talked about this last time. I went to Japan a couple of times and helped them design a few things. And then when the 450 was released, we spent a lot of time tuning and adjusting things. But I mean that four-wheeler that came out of the box pretty dang good. Pretty dang good.
Yeah, it was a great machine. When the last race in WPSA, when you and Dustin Wimmer went head to head, we talked a little bit about that last time. But one of the things that I watched those two machines go through the whoop section, and your frame would touch the ground where the Honda wouldn't. That what I always thought that was a negative. And talking to some other people, the way they set that machine up was so that it would always be low, and a little bit of frame drag was never a negative for you guys.
Yeah, and then that's the same thing. You want it low, but too much frame drag is going to cause you to slow down and drag through, depending on the track. And that's again, me and Wayne Hinson sat down and talked about that a lot. Like, hey, how low? I mean, the lower we can go, the better. Like go-kart racing, But if there's a lot of whoops or big deep ruts, you don't want to be that low because the drag is going to slow you down too much. But no, we kept that thing as low as possible, and I think that's what made it handle so good. And I know talking to other guys, And I know too for a fact because I did race a Honda once after I retired. Um, I felt the Suzuki just is so much easier to ride and it handled better. The Honda was just it to me was sporadic. It was you got it wore you out more. It was more of a young man's bike than an older guy's bike.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't get to race a Suzuki, so I could never honestly answer the question. And obviously, I never raced at your level, but I spent some time on the back of the 0405 Honda, and I really liked that platform for off road. But I didn't race motocross either, so.
Yeah. And I mean, it's all what you get used to too. But I know I've talked to some other guys too that were like, yeah, man, I rode a Suzuki. It's nice. It handles good. So it wasn't just me that I'm used to it. I mean, I've talked to some other racers that have told me that, yeah, they've jumped on and tried a Suzuki and just were impressed on how good it handled.
Yeah, I mean, like the old test track where we used to have our shop, that was the best bike for that environment because
Yeah.
you could turn it so awesome under power.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean that probably did more for it than anything. It was just the fact that it turned so good.
Yes. Yes.
Um, One of the young kids that's coming into the pro class for 2023 is coming in on a Suzuki.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I'm going to talk to him about that on an upcoming show. It's just kind of funny that I'm talking to you that race Suzukis, and then I'm going to talk to him about all these years later that he's bringing a Suzuki back to the pro class.
Wow. Wow. That'd be great though.
I think it's still a really good platform. There are things that they do on the Yamahas where they use the spindles on the Suzuki. They did that on the Hondas too to make them turn better.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know. I haven't sat down with the Suzuki front end to know enough about the differences to know exactly why it does that. I guess it doesn't really matter. You don't need to measure it all out. You just need to know that it works.
Yeah. Yep.
When you were transitioning from an independent to a factory guy, was it overwhelming at all?
Yes, it was. It's something that I always wanted or dreamed about. And when it finally happened, it was like, wow, this is really happening. And, when Suzuki called me up and flew me out to Las Vegas and said they got a contract for me, they want me to race for them, it was like, wow, this is gonna happen. And it did. So yeah, it was a dream come true.
Did you consult anybody before you signed the contract?
Yeah, Wayne Henson.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Do you think Wayne had anything to do with Suzuki picking you?
I think so. Yes. Yes, I do. Yeah, I think, and then of course he got involved and he had a lot to do with everything, that went on with Suzuki. Well, he was team manager for a while. So
When you are on the factory gig, all that work through all those years is what got you there.
yes, yes. And, I think about, man, all the years I raced and, I did it for fun because you weren't making no money doing it. I mean, what you put into it, you're lucky you got back out of it. And, if you won a race here or there, you had some win bonuses from some, aftermarket companies. And then the factory comes along and offers you this big salary and win bonuses. It's like, holy cow, it's paying off now. And I feel like, I'm one of the lucky guys that was racing during that era that this happened. I mean, I got into it and the factories dropped the three-wheelers. They weren't sponsoring them no more. And it was kind of a dry spell for 10 years or whatever. And then and I'm just lucky that I got to be on the bandwagon when things were going good.
Yeah. Well, not only did you race 250Rs in a very competitive era, you got to race the four strokes in a competitive era.
Yes, it was yeah, I mean, two strokes was a lot of competitive guys. I mean, well, you remember Donnie Banks and John Hemme and geez, there's so many guys back in the day. Do you remember John Scott?
Yep.
Yeah, he went good too. I mean, there was a lot of fast guys on 250Rs.
John Scott came back to the one of those invitational races years out, not I mean like 3 years after he retired and won it.
Yeah, very talented guy.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
That's most of the older guys can still ride. Like you still ride motorcycles, you still do real well as the snowmobiles, correct?
Correct. Yes, I try to.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that you don't try. I'm sure it's easier than you make it out to be for all the years that you've spent on the back of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it helps all the time. Handlebar time, I call it.
The advice that you give to young people when you talk to them about racing and things like that, what's one of the things that you tell them to look for?
Handlebar time. The more you can spend on that quad, the more you're going to become acquainted to it, and the better you'll do in the long run. Less chance of making a mistake or possibly crashing. The more you're on it, the more you're going to know what every little bump, jump, corner, any condition's going to bring to you. You'll be able to overcome it.
So when you were riding for Suzuki, what was a week like for you for racing? Like practice. How many motos would you do and like in a week?
I would ride if there was a race coming up over the weekend, and this changed as I got older, but I would ride Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I would ride two 45-minute motos each day, and I would do it at noon and 3 o'clock, just like at the race. So it was the same time. And in between motos, I would have to prep my own track. I would water it. I have to work on my quad. So I mean, I was busy during the day. In the morning, I would be working on the quads too. So I'm ready for that first moto at noon. And then, ready again for second moto at 3 o'clock. And I was fortunate. I had a fella named Russell Shoemaker. He was a younger kid that he ended up getting picked up by Kawasaki, and he lived 10 minutes from me, so we would practice together. And of course, I would always judge by him where I am. And every day when we would do our motos, I would try to beat him by a bigger distance, and I'd watch where he is on the track every lap. And that's how I could push myself. But without practicing with somebody, you don't have that mentality, or you have no gauge to judge. And not that he practiced with me all the time, but when he came around, it was good. And I pushed myself, as much as I could, and I did a lot of motos. And the older I got, I would quit. If I had a race on Sunday, I would probably only ride till Tuesday or Wednesday. Then I needed a couple days to recover, because the older I got, my body was not recovering fast enough. I would get to the race and I would still be wore out from practicing so much.
Did you get into the change of the diet, or food like some of the riders did later in their careers, or were you did anybody help you with that, or was these things that you figured out on your own?
I figured them out on my own. I know Dustin Wimmer and them, they had personal trainers, and my diet changed a lot through my racing career. I used to always think pasta was the way to go. And then, of course, pasta too much, like anything too much not good for you or it brings you down. So yeah, I changed my diet through it and I did what I thought worked best for me. I did go to that trainer that Dustin Wimmer went to, and I thought, all right, I'll go try him for a day. And all he did was try to get me to puke. I mean, he made me run stairs, and he was a drill sergeant. And I remember him yelling at me and everything. And then he told me afterwards, he's like, well, you're one of the first guys I didn't get to puke. And I'm like, I know better. I know when to stop, you know. So, and I knew what I had to do myself. I didn't need somebody pushing me to do that. I knew what I had to do to push myself. So I thought, well, I'm not going to spend the money on a personal trainer. I know what I need to do.
Well, that's the old school way of learning. You know, most of the guys from our age group, we never had those resources. They weren't
Right,
available.
right, right.
You talk to the guys now, and they're doing blood work, and they're getting into using the blood work to decipher what they should eat or not eat.
Yep.
It's a whole different level.
Yes. Yep. And you asked me what to tell somebody coming up. Your mind has a lot to do with it. If you're mental, if your head's not in the game when you get to the race, you're wasting your time. And when you have a good week prior to the race, you're eating good, you're training, you're riding a lot. I mean, that all helps your mental attitude when you get to the race. If you are like, oh man, I didn't practice this week, I wasn't eating that good. I mean, you're beating yourself up before you even get to the starting line.
Well, if you had a bad week of practice, when you go to the line, that's still in your mind.
Yes, yes. Yep. So I mean, I don't care what anybody says, mental is a lot to do with it. If you don't have that mentality when you pull up to that starting gate and somebody else next to you does, you're in trouble. It's going to be hard to beat them.
Do you think that that's one of the reasons why you were always such a tough competitor, is because your mental game was so strong?
I think so because I know there was a lot of guys more talented than me and faster, but I put the hard work in. And, I went to that starting line. I said, man, I've been working hard. This is mine. This is mine. And I put it in my head that, hey, this is it. I'm doing it. Unless I had, mechanical breakdown or something that I couldn't control, I would do what I could to get myself out front. Think about being tired after the race. I always said that to myself. Got plenty of time to be tired after the race is over. Don't think about it during the race if you start getting tired, because then there's that mental thing again. You're beating yourself up.
So the format with two motos, one at noon, one at 3. After your first moto, let's say you didn't have the greatest moto, when you went back to the truck, what were you doing to mentally prepare for that next moto?
I would think about what went wrong, what I could do to fix it, where do I need to go faster. I would just analyze everything that went wrong and try to figure out, well, how can I make this better for the second moto?
How often did that work for you?
It worked pretty much for me a lot. I mean, I'd come back second moto and do better. Not all the time, but I gotta tell you a story. I remember talking to Ricky Carmichael. He told me that, when I get to the starting line, I tell myself that I belong out front. I'm getting a whole shot. This is my whole shot. I'm getting out front right from the get-go. And obviously, when you get to start and you get up front right away, that's half the battle nowadays with how fast everybody is. And back when I was racing, it was the same way. There was a lot of fast guys. And if you're not out front from the get-go, it's just back in the 80s and early 90s, I remember I could come from behind and get a bad start, but come from behind. I couldn't do that no more in the 2000 eras. It's just too many fast guys. And there was, I mean, I can name Dana Creech, Luberg, Shane Hitt, Tim Farr, John Natali. I mean, you got a lot of guys, Corey Ellis. I mean, there's all these guys that are fast. it's who wanted it the most, who trained the hardest, So I mean, they're all the same speed. It was crazy. It was, and I remember practicing with some of them guys down in Florida or California, and who's putting in the hard work and who's not. It's going to pay off in the long run.
This is going to be kind of an arrogant question. Did you know when you went to the line, the fighters and the non-fighters?
Yes, I did. Especially after, I don't want to mention names, but I know from practicing with guys and seeing, what they're doing between races, the week before or whatever, I'd see them at a practice track. I could tell. I could tell who wanted it and who didn't.
We spoke of John Natale last time being one of the fiercest competitors that you had. He rode the Invitational in California, it was supposed to be in Nevada, but it was in California at 47 years old.
Yes, it was impressive. When I seen him, I thought, and it said Natale on the back because I didn't know he was there and hadn't talked to him. And then I seen it, like, man, that guy's still going good. I mean, well, he proved it. You've seen his time there and everything. Yeah,
Being that you're a
I
few
was
years
impressed.
older than him, if somebody invited you to a race like that, would you even consider it?
It all depends how much time I'd have to prepare for it. I haven't rode a quad in it's been a long time. I've rode dirt bikes, but I'm sure if I got back on a quad and had one to practice that I could practice for a couple months, then I could answer that question more. But right now I'd have to say, nope, I can't race a quad again. But no, John was impressive. I was impressed on how good he was going.
But if they invited you to a snowmobile race, you'd go do that.
Probably because I ride them. I was just riding them not too long ago. So
well, I mean, it's honest answers. It's great that you can consider it if you have enough time to prepare. But if it's a short notice deal, that'd be a no.
No, and my problem is I'm still very competitive, so I don't want to go unless I have a chance of winning. So right. I want to make sure I'm prepared so I do have that chance. Otherwise, I don't want to waste my time.
When you were racing, did you do anything other than just motocross? Did you do any of the, wood style racing or anything like that?
No, I did. I think I entered one cross country race, but other than that, I just did the national motocrosses and the TTs. And in the winter, I cross trained on a snowmobile to try to stay in shape until things got better, and then I would go to Florida or California to train. Once the sponsors got picked me up and were supporting me better.
Were there a lot of places back then in Florida to go ride?
Yeah, there was. We rode at a lot of places, which I hear now that a lot of them are shut down. There's hardly anywhere to ride quads in Florida, but I know we rode Croom, and I can't think of all the names, but we did ride a bunch of different tracks when I was down there.
Yeah, Deckers. There's Deckers now, and I think the one place that you just mentioned, the first place, I think that's still there.
Yeah, and I think Croom is just like a open area of sand to ride in. What really ain't the track. And I know I was down last winter with my dirt bike, and I was talking to Mike Walsh from Walsh Racecraft, and he did tell me of a place to go that a lot of quad guys are going to, and I didn't get a chance to go there, but I know Chad Weenan called me up and wanted me to go out there, but I didn't get a chance to go. But I think it was more quads, and I had a dirt bike, so I probably would have felt out of place. So,
well, those guys would have appreciated seeing you, whether you're on a dirt bike or a quad.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get down to Florida this year and see if I can go to that place, because I know they're probably down there training already, getting ready. Because they race Daytona again for the first one.
Yeah, it's in March. And yeah, there's a ton of guys already at Deckers.
Yeah. Is Deckers on the north side then? Do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah. I think it is, because I think Mike told me it wasn't too far from his place. So
I can't wait till I get an opportunity to go down there because I want to see the facility itself. And I'm supposed to call Mr. Decker and talk to him, but
Yeah.
again, it's you get it on the schedule and your schedule gets all screwed up. And then what do? You wait till the next day and then the same thing happens. And
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I want to go see some of these facilities just to see what it's like, where they're training. You get to see pictures and social media stuff, but actually being there is totally different.
Yep. Yep.
Would you go down just for like a weekend to go riding? Because they have motorcycles there too.
Yeah. Well, that's what we did last year. I would try to go down and plan it with the weather here because we had a snow plowing business that we had to be back if it snowed up here. This winter, we got rid of all our snow plowing accounts, so I'm hoping I can spend more than a few days down there at a time. Hopefully, I can spend 2 weeks down there before I come back home. So,
is the crop dusting business good enough to where you don't have to work in the winter?
it can be. Depends on the year. We bought a 160-acre farm, so we're running the land, and that's hopefully going to be our income to keep us going through the winter. We did a crop of beans this year, and we bought a combine, and my wife Tina ran the combine because I got in it for a while, and we were harvesting the beans, and I'm like, wow, we're doing 3 mile an hour across the field. I'm used to doing 150 mile an hour across the field when I crop dust. I said, you can have this, honey. So she harvested all the beans and she loved it. I got her started in it and she finished it. So,
Wow, that's quite
yeah,
a woman you got there.
yeah. Oh, she liked it too. She took the dog in there and they were good to go. I said, have fun. That's just too slow paced for me right now. So,
So you just make sure that everything's mechanically sound and everything's good, and let her run with it, huh?
yep, yep. She broke the sickle bar the second day, so I had to put a new sickle bar in, the teeth that cut. But other than that, no, she did good and she loved it. So that's all that counts.
Right. That's pretty awesome. Uh, but you're still doing the crop dusting, right?
Yes, yeah. We usually crop dusting don't start till end of March, April, and it's slow then. We don't have too much to do. It all depends on the weather. We don't really start getting busy till May, June. June, July, and August are our really busy months. And that's why, like, I know Tom Carlson a few years ago wanted me to go to that when they put on that race at, where was that? Out in Ohio there.
Ashtabula.
Ashtabula, yeah. I couldn't go. That's our busy time. We make all our money in July, June, July, and August, and I just can't leave. And um, with me owning the business, and it's not like I can say, "Hey, why don't you come fly my plane while I'm gone for the weekend?" They can't do it. So, and when we're busy, it's sun up to sun down, and it's a busy time, and it's very I'm going to say not stressful, but you physically demanding. Even though I'm sitting in an airplane, your eyes, you don't blink. I mean, you're doing 150 mile an hour across the corn, at 10 feet above the corn. You're looking for wires, birds, even deer can jump up, and I mean, it gets tiring, and but you make all your money in 3 months, and then you hopefully you slow down and then you get the planes ready for the next year and you can take the winter off then.
Not to get off topic, is prepping a plane for the season like prepping your quad for the race season?
Yes, you want that plane. It has to be 100% because if it breaks down, just like a quad, if it breaks down, it costs you a race. Well, if the plane breaks down in the season, it's costing you money. I mean, we get paid by the acre. And if, believe it or not, there's a lot of crop dusters out there. If you don't get it done, they're going to hire somebody else. And if you lose out on a day, I mean, it can be 10 grand you lose out on in one day. And so it's just like you prep that thing in the winter to make sure it is not going to break. And it still happens, just like a quad, it still happens, but you don't want to duct tape it together. That's for sure.
Wow. I mean, you don't rebuild engines every year, do you?
No, we have to do an annual, which I'm not licensed to do, so I have to bring the plane in. And they actually, on the turbine planes we have, they actually take all the fuel nozzles out and send them in and get them cleaned. They pull the whole plane apart and go through everything and then put it back together. The engine doesn't get tore down, but the nozzles, the fuel nozzle, because they're jet engines, they have to get taken out and serviced. And then after about 1,500 hours on the plane, then the engine has to come out, and they call it TBO, time before overhaul. Then it has to get overhauled and checked out.
So that's, I mean, we're not regulated, but we do the same kind of stuff. We have an hour meter on the machine. We're monitoring how many hours are on it before we take it apart. You know,
Yes.
you're logging how much time you put on a carrier, wheel bearings, everything. So
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, we know with quads, hey, this much time and you got to change this. This much time you got to change this. Airplanes are the same way, but the FAA regulates it. They have an airworthiness, um, I don't know what you'd call it, certificate they send out that, hey, they've learned that at 500 hours, this particular model needs this replaced. Otherwise, it's going to go out. And same with forwarders. We know, hey, you race it this hard, this many hours, you got to change this, or else it's going to break on you.
so the transition from quads to airplanes was probably fairly easy for you. I'm not talking about learning how to fly. I'm talking about the maintenance schedule and just being on top of that kind of stuff.
Yes, yes, because I mean it's the same thing. It's an adrenaline rush. You're out there. There's a risk factor, a danger factor, and you know that hey, things got to be right, or else it's your health. You know.
I talk to a lot of old retired racers, and every one of them tells me the same thing, that they've never found something to fill the void of racing. Does crop dusting fill that void for you?
Yes, it does. It's and I'll have to take you for a ride someday. I got a two-seater, so
It's
my
all
wife
right.
goes with.
It's all right, brother.
No, no, I'll be easy with you. I tell this to people because a lot of them think, "Oh, you're just going to make me puke," and I'm like, "No, I don't want you puking in my plane." So
We don't want to clean it up.
I don't want to clean up. And my wife goes with once in a while, and I'll take you for a nice ride when it's nice, and then you'll see what I'm talking about.
Well, I have ridden in a few of Cessnas, and oh my God, it's horrible. I don't.
My
I
eight, my 80-year-old mother went with, so
There
she
you
enjoyed
go.
it.
She's
Yep.
probably tougher than I am. That's that's pretty awesome that you are still that focused and you're able to take care of it. I mean, not that you're old, because I'm still a couple of years older than you, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I turned 35 this year, but who knows?
Right, there you go. You told me you were going to start counting backwards, so
Yeah.
I
So
agree with that.
you're only as old as you feel. That's the way I look at it.
Exactly. We talked a lot about your time racing and your championships that you've won. Which one to you is the one that sticks in your heart as probably your most memorable or the most meaning?
I gotta say, now there's two probably, but '04 because I won on a 400 Z400. But then in '06 when I beat Dustin for the WPSA championship, that was a good one too. That sticks in my head. But then you look back at '99 when I won the first time too. I mean, they're all memorable to me. But I gotta say, I guess '04 would be the most memorable because it was a factory ride. I won on a Z400. They told me it couldn't be done. And when you tell me it can't be done, I like to prove you wrong. So,
What did the Suzuki people say to you after you won that title?
oh, Rod Lapuznak was my boss, from Suzuki there, and he's a guy that really got to think because he enjoyed and loved quads a lot and got Suzuki to, do this factory ride. And he was just a happy-go-lucky guy. And he just, after we won that first championship, he took me out and just was so besides himself that I won. And he told the Japanese that this guy is going to win for us. You will see. And then I did it. So it was very memorable and very rewarding. And Rod was just ecstatic about it. And they did a lot of things for me. I mean, they took me on a nice fishing trip, and they did all these nice posters and billboards and stuff. And no, that was a good year.
That was pretty special stuff right there.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
When you won the race in 2001, the memorial race for Darren, that was probably pretty emotional.
Yes, that was too. Yeah, yeah.
Do you remember much about that race?
Yeah, trying to think, refresh my memory because I'm trying to think, where was that one?
I don't even remember where it was. I remember the race, but not that many details.
Yeah. Why am I thinking it was in Southwick? Is that ringing a bell to you at all? But no, it was yeah, and Darren's parents, who I've lost contact with. And I asked Wayne about it too when I seen him last, if he has run into him, heard from him, and nobody has. But no, they lost both of their sons. I don't know if you know that they had another son before that they lost in a car accident. So
I didn't know that.
Yep. And then Darren, lost his life to cancer. So, but it was sad. But no, that was that was a heartbreaking race. But Darren was a great guy, and he got the ball rolling a lot with ATV racing.
He was excited about it and loved it.
Yes. Yep.
That's what I remember. And I was young or younger and wasn't as involved in the nationals and stuff. And I would speak to Darren on the phone a little, but Lauren spent more time with him and spoke with him more than I did.
Yeah, and I talked to Sean Cermony, who ran into at the Invitational there and at the reunion, and I didn't recognize him at first. He goes, "Hey, Doug," and I looked at him and said, "Man, you're gonna have to refresh my memory." But no, he said he hasn't heard from them guys either, so I don't know what's going on.
Well, they're probably up there in age too.
Yeah, I'm thinking that.
I mean, you got to figure every gray hair we get, they were quite a few years in front of us.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, we're none of the people that we associate the industry with, as far as the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s. You got to figure that we're 2023.
Yeah.
Kind of a mind-blowing deal there.
Wow, time flies.
Yeah. I mean, if you retired in 09, wow, right?
14 years already.
Yeah, and it's just a blink of an eye, right?
Yep. It just popped in my mind too. Do you remember what's his name? Charlie Shepard.
Yeah,
I raced him too. Remember, he was fast.
Oh, he was a freaking bulldog.
Man. Yeah, there were some names back then, So
well, I mean, we could probably get a list of 20 guys easy. Well, hey, I've probably taken enough of your time.
Yeah,
Doug, I so much appreciate this, because as a fan that I am, you were always one of the guys that we always looked up to in the racing, and we followed your career for years and years. And
well, thank you. I enjoy talking. I miss the whole scene, miss all you guys, and it was I'd never take it back what we did. We had great times, and it's tough to sit back and talk about this now, and you just miss it more.
Well, you know what? In a couple months, you'll be flying around in that airplane, and
Yep,
you'll be getting your
forget about it.
adrenaline fix.
Hopefully you'll be with me.
I don't know about that, but I'm still I'm going to be scared. You know that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, everybody is at first, but
Dude, I rode passenger in a Razor, and it like killed me.
hey, I know what that is. You're right, passenger. You don't have control. I'm like that too. It's scary.
Yeah, I mean, when we used to fly to the races all the time, I go, dude, just let me drive. If I could drive,
Yep,
everything would be great.
yep,
Oh,
yep.
give
I
me a
know.
fake steering wheel, and I'll be good.
I get on a commercial flight. I got to look in at the pilot, say, "Hey, how's it going up there?"
uh, yeah, they don't let you do that much anymore now.
No, they don't. They don't.
Again, Doug, thank you so much. The team here at ATV-TALK would love your feedback. Please email us at hello@atvtalkpodcast.com. If you're in need of a consultation for your current racing program, a custom ATV, or an industry guest speaker, I have the company for you. Duncan Technologies International Inc. offers host, MC, and guest speaking services at events, builds custom ATVs for recreational riding or racing around the world, and they offer consulting services for professional teams or individual racers. Send inquiries to duncantechinternational@gmail.com or call 619-716-1532 for more information. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to share us with your family and friends. The podcast is available on all streaming platforms, and you can find us on social media as ATV Talk Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter